Greetings. Welcome back again. My name is Derek Muhammad, formerly Derek Hopkins, and I'm originally from Estill, South Carolina, born and raised in Hampton County. First, I would like to briefly recap. This is episode 8 of this series, and I have broken down this case by events that have happened thus far. You saw the illegal harassment of me and my guests at our 420 planting party. It's an educational event that we've had at the farm every year thus far, Bossville Farms. You saw us put off the property. You saw that our property was destroyed by relatives of mine and those people who claim to have control of our property, West Jarrell and these people, Bud Ferry. You've seen and heard the illegal arrest or the illegal ticketing of me and my sister on the property. When we had food growing there, we had a hoop house there, the whole nine. You saw all of those things. You heard the what the sheriff said, and you've been privy to this evidence. This is hard evidence of what is going on in this county. I want to thank each of you who have followed along and who are sharing these videos. This is very important because it's just not my family that's going through this. There's other people that are having similar issues. If you doubt what I say, please go to Prime if you can, or Google and watch the trailer on Silver Dollar Road. It's the Reels brothers and how they were incarcerated for 8 years for trespassing in their own homes. It's a serious matter. So what I'm going to play for you today is very disturbing, because what you're going to hear is a judge in Hampton County follow the same modus operandi, the same MO as the other judges and courts in this district. So what I want you to do is really observe these patterns in the court proceedings. I want you to think about and to go back and listen so you can hear what Bud Ferry said. You can hear Johnny Gordon. Kelvin, of course, is one of those people who plays the background role so he doesn't get mixed up, but he is in these proceedings as well. You'll hear Tracy Gordon and some of the things that she had to say. And so we're gonna analyze the systematic issues within the system, and I'm gonna show you through these court proceedings and through the documents that I have that this is a corrupt system and we need help exposing these people. So without any further ado, what I'm going to do now is play the recording for you to hear from the actual end of this court session. So listen up and stay tuned here.
Your Honor, I think I'm going to move for summary judgment. I mean, they haven't shown that my client had notice. They're not even showing that whoever owned the property was supposed to own the property. Mr. Ferry, who doesn't do much probate law, didn't realize that once the thing's in appeal, that basically the probate order is stayed or ceased. I gave you 2 references that's either stayed or ceased by the order of Judge Price and by the case law. The statute, which is 621308. Mr. Gerald wasn't even there. Never gave a notice before. He just said he got a phone call. He spoke to Mr. Smith. He said it was possibilities from Mr. Smith. So the officer calls you, then asks you if you want someone on the property. That's force. Your Honor, they can't show one where somebody who's in ownership had the authority to tell my clients that they could not be on the property. All they showed was a bad lease. The lease that we had didn't even have a signature on it. So clearly, who is it actually even for?
Right.
Then we had a special special administrator whose order was ceased. And just like he said on the stand, Your Honor, he said, oh, this was limited to Gordon Logging, but this property that they were on is owned by Gordon Logging. So that was the basis of the appeal, as to whether that property was part of the estate. During the time of the appeal, my client had just rights to be on the property like he had done 2 to 3 years before. So, Your Honor, with that, we're asking that this case be dismissed. The elements of the crime aren't there. They haven't done anything to show that my clients had notice from someone who's supposed to, and that they did something that they weren't supposed to do. The notice was off, and the arrest was, and the ticket was faulty. So, Your Honor, we're asking for a dismissal.
I'm going to take a brief recess.
Now, during this recess, I wasn't there, but my sister and our attorney, Idris Jenkins, said that the judgment in the back, you could hear her on the phone, and then she comes out with this saying. So listen carefully here.
Okay, this is what I decided to state.
Before you make a decision, I'll give my closing argument here. I know that.
Okay, but I'm gonna, there's a need for, because I'm gonna. Okay.
So listen closely now. The judge said that Craig Smith here says, hey, Judge, I want to make my closing arguments now. She said, there's no need for that. And here's why.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to postpone my verdict for today until the appeal is heard for Ms. Hopkins, for Ms. Williams, I'm sorry. And as far as Mr. Hopkins, I'm going to postpone his hearing until after the appeal is heard. Once the appeal is heard, then I'm going to render my verdict for Ms. Hopkins, and I also will hear Mr. Williams, Mr. Hopkins. I'm sorry, I know you about Hopkins. That's why I'm saying Hopkins. I'm going to render my verdict for Mr. Hopkins at that time, and then I'm sorry, I will hear Mr. Williams. You get your name messed up. I'm going to postpone my verdict for you on today until the appeal is heard. Once the appeal is heard, then I'll render my verdict. For your brother, Mr. Hopkins, I'll hear his case once the appeal is done, being that the appeal is pending in court. So once the appeal is done, because you do have a pending appeal, once that's done, then I'll hear his case on those charges. But I'm asking you and your brother, not to go on that property until...
Key moment in this hearing. You heard what she said at the end. This shows collusion with the court. Now, nothing for criminal trespassing after notice met any of the criteria, and yet we're still being denied access to our property by a magistrate judge now. Listen closely.
Till the appeal is done. Okay? So I'm going to postpone my verdict, which means I'm not going to give a verdict today until the appeal is done because it's in appeal. And I'm not going to hear his case until after the appeal is heard as well. Do you understand what I'm saying? You have an issue with that?
Yes, we have an issue.
I understand, Your Honor, you have the authority to do it. But the appeal only plays to the psyche of the people involved. So
right. The appeal... I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
As to say whether at the time in which that occurred, so even if the appeal is done, at the time in which this incident occurred, the time in which Mr. Swift gave him a warning, there was an appeal that's processed.
Right.
So I'm not sure, and I understand Your Honor has a thought process.
Okay, so it was my understanding that you were appealing the decision of the court case, of the court saying that they are not to have anything to do with the property as far as it's issued right now, right? Is that what you're appealing?
Yes, ma'am, I am appealing that, but I am also under the impression that during an appeal, that's according to the statute, and that's according to the form, that's according to everything, during the appeal, the order is stayed. So even if the appeal is won or lost on whatever, it doesn't take away that at that time, when they were on the property, the appeal was stayed or ceased. There's no other language that says it goes forward. And it's in the statute, it's in the order, it's even in Judge Price's order. You know, everything says cease or stay. Nothing says that you can move forward an appeal. So the order is in a cease or stay state. So I do understand, Your Honor, and as I said, I understand your wish. Your Honor, can I ask the court's indulgence, may I be able to present a brief on the matter?
Yes.
And I'll present a brief to the court, and then since we have to hear the other person, Mr. Hopkins anyway, I'll have it in before we hear his case.
Did you want to say something? And because of a letter was issued saying that they are not to go on the land, that was written by Mr. Ferry, saying that they're not. So what I'm
Key point.
I think for me the best interest is to just postpone my verdict until the appeal is heard. Once the appeal is heard, then I render a verdict on Ms. Williams, and then I'll hear the case for Mr. Hopkins, and that's going to be the order of the court.
All right. Thank you.
So that's the modus operandi of courts in this area. None of them want to take responsibility for doing the right thing. So here you hear the judge say, well, I'm just going to wait until the appeal happens. So guess what happened 2 weeks later at the appeal? It was continued. The judge recused himself, and now there's a new judge on the case, and it's continued until undetermined time, undetermined date. I'm telling you, we need your help because now we have been deprived of our property for 2 solid years. Are you understanding me? It's been 2 years. On that property, we've invested over $100,000 in equipment, wells. We put a well on the property. We put a storage shed on the property. We were growing food on the property. We had an irrigation system put in on the property. And they literally just threw us off and said, beat it. With this guy, Bud Ferry, who says, I cannot sign documents for Gore Logging Company. But right here, he's testifying that's what he's doing. I want you to analyze these systematic issues within this court system, and please share these videos. This is frustrating. It really is. And I have more for you. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you a lot of this evidence so you can understand. I really want to put these documents on the screen. I showed you some documents on my Instagram page. Go look at them and stretch those out and whatnot. Be glad to share those with any media out there that wants to break this story. We need your help. So share the video, please, to raise awareness about this. Please support us. Thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate you listening to these videos. I know this one was a bit longer, but I have more to come. Stay tuned. Peace.